So Derrick Rose to the Knicks has been strongly rumored for the past 5 hours, but as of now it's finally official, and I didn't want to react to it until it actually was. But the trade has been successful. The actual trade package is Dennis Smith Jr. and a Charlotte 2021 second round pick going to the Pistons, while Derrick Rose heads to the Knicks, of course. So the Knicks are the main part of this deal, so I'll talk about the Pistons really quick right now. They get Dennis Smith Jr. He was the ninth overall pick coming out of North Carolina State in the 2017 draft, and he came in with a lot of potential. When he fell to number 9, I remember a lot of draft experts and gurus saying that most of them thought he would go higher, like in the top 6, and that the Mavericks got a steal here. And of course, the Knicks were getting laughed at for not taking him. A freakishly athletic slashing point guard. In his 1 year at NC State, he shot 36% from 3 on basically 5 attempts per game, so there was a lot of reason to believe that even though he was mainly a slashing point guard, he could definitely develop a threatening 3-point shot to keep the defense off guard. He had an alright rookie year in Dallas, averaging 15 points per game, not the most efficient though, on 39.5% from the field and only 31% from 3, but he was still named to an all-rookie team, and there was still a lot of reason to believe that he could develop into one of the best scoring point guards in the league. But then the next year, the Dallas Mavericks drafted Luka Doncic, and he kind of took the reins, and Dennis Smith Jr. fell out of the lineup. So they traded him in that blockbuster trade for Porzingis, and in his time in New York, he never really developed a jump shot, never really took a step defensively or as a playmaker. Basically flatlined as a player in his entire stint in New York. As of now, he's still only 23 years old. Players hit their strides at different times. Just look at Christian Wood, who was balling out last year and is still balling out this year. He hit his stride at 24 or 25 years old, so there's still definitely reason to believe that Dennis Smith Jr. can get it back on track. He'll be a restricted free agent this summer because this is the last year of his rookie deal, but I doubt anyone will really pay top dollar to add him on the team because he hasn't really shown a reason for a team to do that. So this pickup is just an experimental pickup. If he can turn a stone, he could be a really good backup point guard for you behind Killian Hayes, and maybe a best case scenario, he breaks out and the Pistons can run some 2-point guard lineups of Killian and DSJ. And for DSJ to really break out and be a viable rotational piece of a team, especially the Pistons, he's going to have to develop a consistent jump shot, mid-range pull-up, or just simply a catch and shoot 3. He's going to have to buy in defensively and improve his shot selection. If that can happen, he could be a rotational piece for the Pistons. You can run some 2-point guard lineups with him and Killian together. That's just a best case scenario, probably not going to happen. Another thing I want to talk about on the Pistons half of things, was this the best offer or package that Detroit could get for D Rose? There's a lot of speculation about a contender trading for D Rose last mid-season around the trade deadline. The Lakers were rumored to want or to be interested in D Rose to have him provide that bench pop, but nobody really pulled the trigger. I don't know, maybe I was thinking the same this year. Maybe a contender would be desperate for a bench scorer and offer a late first rounder at the deadline, but we're obviously not going to see if that would happen, so we'll never really know. Now we get to the Knicks side of things. This is a competent move from the Knicks front office. Shout out to Leon Rose. He's really turning things around in New York. Smith Jr. was already out of the rotation, and he wanted to go to the G League. And giving away a second rounder and somebody out of the rotation to get one of the best sixth men in the league over the past 2 or 3 years, that's not a high opportunity cost. And you get D Rose. The Knicks have been great defensively as a team, but even with Julius Randle breaking out and RJ Barrett starting to hit strides and become a bit more consistent, and the emergence of Emmanuel Quickley, the team still needed some offensive pop, and Derrick Rose provides just that. He's revamped his career over the past 3 years, turned into one of the league's best scoring point guards off the bench. This year he hasn't really been as good as he was. Emergency vehicles be driving around my apartment 24/7, bro. Like I was saying, Rose hasn't been as great this season as he was in the prior 2 years. His points per game totals are down, his field goal percentage is down, and also his minutes are down. But obviously, it's still D Rose. He's still going to put pressure on the defense in the pick and roll and isolation situations, getting to the rim and drawing help. And that should make offense a lot easier for the Knicks. In terms of fit, like I said, it should make offense a lot easier for the Knicks, especially the main core young players of the Knicks who can play off of Derrick Rose. Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, even throw Quickly in there. Obviously, Rose can run some pick and roll action with Randle and Mitchell Robinson. Also, Obi Toppin, of course. But yeah, he can run some pick and roll offense with the Knicks' young bigs. And with Randle shooting the ball at an insane clip this year, the pick and pops are available between Rose and Randle. So that's another thing that's available. And it was already available like throughout the entire season with like Elfrid Payton, but obviously Derrick Rose is a more threatening player with the ball in his hands than Elfrid Payton, so it has more eyes from the defense on Derrick Rose and gives Randle more of an opportunity and more freedom and open space to operate on offense. Talking about his fit with RJ Barrett, RJ hasn't been the best three-point shooter this year. He's never really shown the consistency to be a knockdown catch and shoot guy that you go to often. He's more of a guy who operates with the ball in his hands, getting to the rim or hitting some dribble pull-ups in the mid-range around the elbows. So what can he do with Derrick Rose having the ball in his hands and him playing off-ball? He can turn into more of an off-ball cutter when Rose has the ball in his hands and get some dribble penetration. That could be an easy way or an efficient way for him to get some looks off the ball at the rim. At the end of the day, Derrick Rose is just another guy for the defense to take seriously with the ball in his hands that the Knicks have in their rotation now. I watched a Funky Diabetics video about this, and he was talking about a scare that comes with Derrick Rose being added, that he's afraid that D Rose would hijack the offense, and I don't really think there's reason to worry because he played with the Timberwolves 2 years ago with Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. He was getting his points per game around 15 or 16 points per game off the bench, and Cat and Wiggins were still getting their normal production. I think Wiggins was averaging his normal 19 points per game, and Cat was probably around 25 points per game. So I don't think he's going to really hijack the offense. I think he'll be able to fit right in, and I think Derrick Rose has the wherewithal and awareness of his career, the type of player he is and the type of team that the Knicks are, to not hijack the offense. I think he's simply going to make the Knicks more efficient, like starting with Julius Randle. I think this is a perfect example. Randle's having a great year, like an extremely great year. He's an all-star in my opinion, but he's only shooting 47% from the field, which is a bit subpar for a big man because only 41% of his field goals are assisted on. So both of those percentages, his field goal percentage and percent of his 2-point field goals assisted on, should go up with the addition of Derrick Rose. Another scare he talked about was defensively, but I agree with Funky Diabetic about this. D-Rose is not a great on-ball defender, but he's an experienced vet who's played in Tom Thibodeau's defensive system before in Chicago, and their defenses were elite. So he knows what he's doing on that end in terms of team defense and rotations. The Knicks have a great defense this year, and they don't have that much elite defensive personnel. So the Knicks' playing level on defense is above that of their personnel and talent defensively. And that's because of the scheme. Tom Thibodeau's philosophy has probably just got them playing harder. So I think they should be fine on that end with the Derrick Rose addition. And the last thing in terms of fit I want to talk about is the point guard rotation. It's now Elfrid Payton, Emmanuel Quickly, and Derrick Rose. Those are the three guys that are deserving of a lot of minutes at the point guard position. Payton's been starting all of the Knicks games, and he's been playing 28 minutes a night. Knicks fans are ready for Emmanuel Quickly to start at point guard, and rightfully so. And now you're bringing in Derrick Rose, who should demand at least 20 minutes a night. The only situation to get everybody their adequate minutes, Thibodeau's going to have to play two of them together at times. Rose can play some minutes with Emmanuel Quickly. They're going to be small defensively, but on offense, they should have a lot of dribble penetration. Elfrid Payton and Emmanuel Quickly don't log that many minutes together. They haven't done so this season thus far, and in those minutes that they've played together, they've been a minus 18.9 points. And then playing Rose and Elfrid Payton together would be a spacing nightmare. I think Tibbs would stray away from that. It's going to be a bit of a logjam, but I think Tibbs will be able to figure it out. He's a smart, experienced head coach, so he should be able to figure it out. To conclude, I like this move from the Knicks. They gave up a player that was out of their rotation and a second-round pick to get one of the league's better sixth men. Maybe playoff basketball in the Garden could actually be a thing this season. They're currently 8th in the East. The Raptors and Heat are behind them, but are starting to get healthy and hit their stride. It'll be tough for them to hold off the past two Eastern Conference champions, but it's definitely possible.